Since we're sort of talking about politics, I don't necessarily want to get into like whatever is the headline today because people might be watching this a while from now, and but I am sort of curious how, as someone like you who obviously cares a lot about what's going on in the world all the time, how do you respond to people who say things like, "Oh, you shouldn't inject politics in entertainment," or things like that? Like, what do you feel about when someone says something like that?
Well, first of all, I think Donald Trump injected entertainment into politics, so I don't know that that's really a fair criticism. I think what Pablo Picasso said is true. Art is a lie that tells us the truth. And if you stay true to that, I think you're okay. My job on Comey, my job on Captain Phillips, my job on Richard Jewell, my job on any of the movies that I've made that have been true stories is to serve, the story gods, of course, to make sure that it's entertaining and to stay extremely true to the spirit of events and in some cases the details of events. And if people find that to be entertaining, great. Everybody wins. I'm not making documentaries. If I were, the rules would be slightly different. I'm trying to tell great stories that happen to be true. And as I look back on some of my favorite movies, they were true stories. All the President's Men is a true story. Amadeus is a true story. There are a bunch of them out there that are wildly entertaining movies. Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid is a completely entertaining movie that is true. Real life, I find much more interesting than fiction.
I'm sort of curious, how do you avoid, you want to focus on being entertaining. How do you avoid, if you do care a lot about the sort of the theme and the politics and all of that, how do you avoid getting caught up in the polemical side of things? How do you make sure that it's entertaining?
Well, don't write it as a polemic, right? I mean, if you find yourself making speeches that are you talking instead of your characters talking, stop. Yes, this movie has a political point of view. Someone who polarizes as much as Trump does is going to give everybody a point of view. I can hardly imagine anything more boring than someone telling the story of James Comey and Donald Trump without having a point of view about it. That said, it's not a polemic at all. I think it's a very even-handed, fair telling of the story. And I think when the world sees it, they'll agree. Okay.
So how do you that raises another question, I think. How do you get the other point of view when you're creating, because obviously you do have a very strong point of view. How do you make sure that you're not like making a cartoon version of the of whatever the opposite view, whether it's the Comey movie or any other sort of topical movie that someone might be working on?
If you're doing Captain Phillips, you also tell the story of the Somali pirate. You dimensionalize them, you humanize them. Nobody wants a one-dimensional bad guy, because then your hero doesn't have to be any great shakes in order to defeat them. You have to have a great bad guy in order to enrich the experience of your hero. So I always look at my bad guys, always. And I try to understand the world from their point of view. When I was on the set working with Brendan Gleeson, who plays Trump, we talked a lot about what was right in what he was saying.
Oh, really?
Never saying to him, hey, you're a mustache twirling villain. Just go nuts, right? And the best example of that to me is go look at Fatal Attraction, which for me is kind of a perfect movie. Glenn Close, from her point of view, is completely right. Like, she played that not as a crazy person. She played that as a woman who's saying, wait a minute, you slept with me all weekend and then never called me again? Fuck you. And from her point of view, she's right. So that taught me a lot about how antagonists are supposed to behave. In the case of Comey, in particular, I did not have the benefit of interviewing Donald Trump, but I had the benefit of sitting down with people who agreed with him. And that was part of my research. I flew all over the place talking to reporters and in some cases Republican lobbyists. I wanted to know why they felt the way they felt. And that was very helpful to me.
That's really honest of you. That not everybody does something like that. Not everybody seeks out disagreement like that.
I wasn't seeking disagreement. I was just trying to make sure the script wouldn't be boring. My fear of boring people is, I think, the biggest driver in my entire career.